And welcome back.
Good morning.
We are here with our
big stretch.
with our lovely conversations in color again, which is what I decided to name the show. I hope you don't mind.
Oh yeah, no.
So that's what it is, and this is episode 2.
Okay.
And we are here with our lovely April Perella.
And our lovely Kirsten Coleman.
Thank you. And we're gonna just chat a little bit about like the recent passing of John Lewis. He just passed
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he was one of the last of his kind, his tribe, his, the old guard that has pushed and pushed and pushed since the 60s, 50s and 60s for racial equality and
Black civil rights.
And Black civil
activists.
rights, yeah. And do you feel like his passing has left us in a bit of a vacuum?
No, I don't. I think, we all, it gives us an opportunity to look back at all of the struggle, all of the speeches, all of the sacrifice he went through with, Martin Luther King and, other activists marching for and doing, participating in protests, creating protests for Black civil rights. I think it is important that we look back at the things he said as he was fighting, the things he said and believed, and his path as he progressed past, the progress he did make, and, why he was in the White House now fighting for Black rights, fighting for, everyone's civil rights, everyone's right to enjoy the same freedoms that we all
should have.
All equally
Yes,
should.
Exactly.
It allows us a chance to look back at his history, and it allows us a chance to pick up the torch and, just continue identifying where systemic racism occurs, where racism occurs. We're with this time where monuments and flags and symbols of
The past.
Our horrible
Our
dark
horrible
past
past,
that has allowed us further lens into what and why that was in place. Needs to be changed, and now more than ever, it's allowing us the opportunity to do that, to look into what Civil War was, back at the people that in the early 1900s, white people have decided to make monuments out of and understand and try to celebrate absolute traitors, absolute treacherous people who want to keep the institution of slavery, even if it's not necessarily physically enslaving people, but they want to keep the institution of it. Black people never
Achieving,
never getting to a place where they can hand down wealth to their families, never getting to a place where they are looked at as equal people of investment, and that's healthcare, and that's education, and that's everything.
Yeah.
And we still have not gotten to a place where that is achievable.
Well, you mentioned today when you came over that you had just gotten an email from your investment place.
No. I was reading an article.
Oh, you read sorry. You read an article about New York Life.
New York Life.
And New York Life and what their history is. Would you care to share that?
Sure. I happen to be an investor in New York Life. I had life insurance when I needed it several years ago when I was married. And I networked with a friend who was a New York Life broker, and because I was in excellent health, it was easy for me to get a life insurance. I had no idea how easy to get a life insurance policy, at least one that covered me over $1 million, and my family. And since then, I don't have the life insurance, but I did have some personal investments that I needed to house
Put
and
somewhere. Yeah.
put somewhere.
Yeah, of course.
And my broker had since changed, and I gained a relationship with someone who I thought I could trust. But admittedly, I didn't look at the history of New York Life. And I was reading an article this morning, and I found that New York Life bought out their parent company. I hope I'm saying that right. Called Nautilus, and Nautilus used to insure the life of slaves for their masters. They had a long history of that.
Oh.
And paid out those policies.
Yeah.
So they trafficked in the life and death of enslaved people.
Yeah.
Paying
out the owners.
Paying
when
out
they
the
died.
owners.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't want to do business with a company whose history is even gleaning on touching that. I sent my brokers, who I don't, one of which I know and one of which I don't know very well, the email, and told them, look, we have a problem. And I think that's important for everybody to understand. There are companies that have a history that traffic in hate.
Yeah.
I'm just going to make it real clear.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't want to do business with
Nope.
any company. If Hobby Lobby, who I understand also has a history of trafficking
I understand that
in
too.
hate.
Yes.
Hobby Lobby will never get my business.
No,
never
ever.
get my
No.
business. And that's just one. But if I find out that there are people that support white supremacy, and that in any way, if my personal dollars were to cross their fortunate.
Yeah. To make them richer.
Absolutely, I refuse to enrich
No,
any company.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
I
don't blame you. I think that's crazy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So bottom line there though is, like, had you not done the research, right, you would not have known this.
Correct.
So y'all need to, like, research some stuff.
Absolutely.
You need to find out about things. You need to learn about
I'm
things.
talking about even mortgage companies.
Yeah.
There are mortgage companies who have private websites, who have employees that get up on Facebook and talk about how Black Lives Matter don't matter, and how I don't care who has anything to say to this. I don't believe they have their misconceived notions about slavery. They spew hatred on their personal websites. People get fired for that type of stuff.
Yep. And they should.
Yep. Because if that and if a company isn't looking, because companies look at their employees' Facebook. If a company is looking at their employees' Facebook and not recognizing that this person
is a problem.
And represents their company, and they don't do anything about it, and further don't get on their website and let people know, we do not support any type of hatred.
Yeah.
And I think it's important now that people send the message that, look, if you're a company that has anything to do with a hate group like the KKK, any type of white supremacy,
Sure.
which I should, they need to be deemed a what is that called? A
threat, not a
well,
threat.
not just a threat, a terrorist group.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
And they are a terrorist group. They have terrorized people for years. They've terrorized Black lives for years, Jewish lives for years. They are a terrorist group, and they are a domestic terrorist group. Anyone that is supporting that, anyone who thinks that's okay, because let's look back at our history with the Confederacy. While the Confederacy out and out said, we want to keep Black people in slaves. They have enriched our pockets. They have given us.
They're so beneficial.
Absolutely, but America complied.
Yeah. Yep.
They stood by and allowed this to happen. They didn't stop it from happening. And this is why our laws and things are so there's so much systemic racism that are enriched in all type of policies we don't even understand and know. And without doing the proper research, we're complicit in it. We allow it. That has to stop. So John Lewis's death should be the birth of our, big more awareness and more action.
So interesting because
Grabbing the coffee.
Okay, no problem. This awareness and action thing. So you also just showed me a disturbing video that somebody shot in Glencoe of a gentleman who was cleaning up the sidewalk after the sidewalk had said in chalk, "We are not all free."
Yeah.
Wake up, Glencoe.
Wake
or
up,
something,
Glencoe. We are
something to that effect, right?
Wake up, Glencoe. We are not all free. Wake up, Glencoe.
Wake up, Glencoe. Right. So, and he was erasing this with water, and there was a woman who was videotaping him.
Right. They
and
had
confronting him, and it was a
an exchange.
really gross exchange of like, well, I'm doing this because I'm white and I'm allowed to,
right?
And I live here and I'm privileged.
His words were, she asked what the sign said, and he said something to the effect that white people are bad and black people are good.
Right. Yeah. So there's the problem. So here's where we need to start. People.
By the way,
this is stupid.
You need to understand some history to know how bad
crazy
that white people have been.
Yeah.
And it now we have to look at the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. Is it bad to? Mm-hmm. Is it good to? Mm-hmm. Is it bad to erase our history and not understand it? Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, no, we can't erase it. Look, it happened.
It happened.
It happened, and we have to
acknowledge
understand that it happened,
well,
and then we have to find out why did it happen.
It's almost obvious why it happened because white people have been benefiting from from free labor for years, and in many ways they still are in prisons. So, prisons are an excellent example of how white people are benefiting from free labor from a workforce that is imprisoned. Mm-hmm. Things are done by design. Mm-hmm. By design. So, Glencoe, where I grew up, has never been more white. Like it's pretty supremely white.
Well, now when you were growing up, you were like one of 5 black people in all of the North Shore or something.
We had more than that. Like Glencoe, maybe less than a third of Glencoe. We on the south side of Glencoe, the true south side of Glencoe.
I grew up on the south side of Wilmette. So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Where we were zoned to have housing and zoned to, raise our families. We had quite an interesting, deep population of black people.
Okay.
And my father was one of the first and only black policemen. Mm-hmm. And he faced tremendous racism. My mother was a member of. She created one of the first black caucuses in Glencoe. She, she fought for it. We marched on Glencoe when I was little, and not that I even understood why we were doing it in the snow, or what this was proving. But this was my parents. In their own way, were activists in a town where they decided they wanted their kids to live and get the best of everything: education, protection. And my mom was from Evanston. My dad was from Markham via Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
More than
deep
that.
South, yeah.
Deep South. My grandfather. Well, I don't know if we need to understand that history, but we are descendants from slaves in twofold.
Okay.
My grandfather's father was a slave in Louisiana. Was freed and had land, but we were also kin to. Our last name was Hendricks, Hendrix, and Jimi Hendrix was our cousin. Not that matters, but the history I want to really pronounce was when my grandmother was raised on a reservation. She was the granddaughter of Sitting Bull.
Oh.
Her name was Leslie Lee Bull.
Oh.
And so my history is steeped in the theft of land twofold.
Yeah, yeah.
And disenfranchising. Not just
land, but
everything.
Souls. Yeah.
And livelihood
and souls
right.
and everything else, yeah.
And, migrating to Illinois for my grandparents was a way to get away from the South. Unfortunately, at a time where even this state was at its height of racism. I mean, at its absolute height. This state was
Oh yeah, the 60s
birthed some
horrifying.
serious,
Yeah.
like even worse
Yeah.
than the South.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
there,
Chicago specifically?
I mean, you know,
Bad.
so look
Bad.
here. I guess the point really is looking back at the history of where we are and where we've come from and what we've done is vital. Glencoe has its history too.
Yeah, so Glencoe needs to understand the history.
Absolutely.
They need to tap into that history. They need to understand the history, and they need to kind of fix some shit. I mean, you got to
sure.
look at this stuff, and you have to understand that what you're doing is wrong.
Well,
it's
you
just
know-
wrong. It's fundamentally on every level wrong.
It
fix
is the epitome of white privilege.
Yeah.
To ignore your past.
Yeah.
To ignore that other people suffer while you sit
you
comfortably
benefit.
sipping your coffee. You know, it is the epitome of white privilege to decide I'm not going to look at someone else's, viewpoint or pain. And I won't believe it, and I'm going to erase it, and I have the right to do so.
Right,
Are you
right.
going to narc me out? It's worth seeing what this gentleman in Glencoe's belief was about, because what he does not want to know, or what he does not want to be reminded of, is that he's got work to do.
I'll tell you what.
He's got work to
He's
do.
got a lot of work to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach that video to the end of this podcast. So I want that video. Send it to me. I'll put it in.
Yeah, for sure.
This podcast.
For sure.
You guys need to watch this. I think it's disturbing. It's unfortunate that it seems
It happened the 4th of July.
Yeah, it seems to just be.
And here, from
A
what
way
I
of
understand, there's a group of activists. I think they're kids. They're youth, caucus that were invited to do this.
Okay.
And the police stood by after this man washed the stuff away, and they put it back.
Oh,
and
good. Okay.
And so
Great.
and
Okay.
he's like, I guess somebody called the police on them, and they're just like, absolutely not. You guys get to do what you want to do. You have a right to do this. So, good news is the law is on the side of people, but the people in Glencoe do need to take a good look at themselves and look back at just some of their action. Look back at some of their belief. Get educated on why people feel the way they feel. And maybe, take a look at their own hearts of, what is it that I believe and why?
Yeah.
What don't I know?
This all comes back to conversation, right? It's
Absolutely.
all, you got to keep talking and
Right.
keep the lines of communication open and understand, like, what you're saying with your words and what you're doing with your words.
Oh, absolutely.
And the communication has to be there. So, y'all keep talking to each other and keep
For sure.
keep the lines open and
Keep
stuff like this
talking
won't
to each
happen.
other, and don't bury your head in the sand when
Right.
you see when there is an uncomfortable moment. Learn from an uncomfortable moment.
Yeah.
Because an uncomfortable moment an uncomfortable moment probably has something to do with you, and you're not able to tap into why. Well, why could be because I believe otherwise. Well, get educated on why, so that you can change even some of what you believe to a better understanding. Let's all speak from the same platform. Let's not have levels of a right to. Let's have the same platform. Let's dive from the same place.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, and with that, we're going to leave you. I'm going to let you listen to this video, and we will see you next week.
Absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, honey.
What are you washing off? What does that say?
It says, wash me.
What does it say? What did this say?
Who cares?
But what does it say?
Why does it matter?
Why does it? Well, it matters if it's.
If it says Black Lives Matter, does it matter?
It does matter,
What if
actually.
it said White Lives Matter? Would it matter?
What are you talking about? Is that what this
Excuse me.
said? Did this say? Is that what this said?
No, let me get to the one down the sidewalk.
What did it say?
Hey, Tom.
Do you know this guy? Okay. Oh, let me see what this says over here.
Steve. Oh, yeah. What's up, buddy?
What does this say?
It's about to say bricks.
We are not all free. Wake up. And wait, we are.
It says something about
Wake up.
white people being bad and black people being great.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm kidding.
It says we are all not free. That's what it says.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it.
Wake up and wake up Glencoe. It says wake. It says no. We are not all free. Wake up Glencoe.
Which country are you talking about?
Well, I'm a Native American, and Native Americans are not free, so
You know what?
it's kind of
Native
accurate.
Americans killed a lot of people.
Are you serious?
I mean, I don't know if free is the right word. I think it's more.
They
about
live in.
equity. It's
They
about
live in.
equity.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
You know who Bob
It
Woodson
is.
is? Are you recording this?
Excuse
Are
me.
you recording
What?
this? Are you recording this?
Yeah, I am.
You are?
Yeah.
Are you gonna rat me out?
Maybe, I don't know. I think what you're doing is really terrible.
I'm not angry.
You just told me, that
I'm
Native
erasing
Americans
this.
killed a lot of people. You just said Native Americans killed a lot of
Native
people.
Americans were
In
warring tribes.
1300, when 1,000, like 3,000 years ago, they killed each other?
Leave me alone,
I'm
you're
sorry.
harassing me.
Guys, come on. Let's just all get along.
I mean,
Happy 4th of July.
let's all get along. Let's not say Native Americans killed other people. You know what I mean?
You are violating my civil rights by recording them.
No, actually, I'm not.
you are.
Actually, I'm not. Actually, I'm not.
This is public
Actually, I'm
property.
not.
I'm free to do this.
And I'm free to record you.
Okay. You're not actually free to
I
record.
am actually free to
You're
record
not,
you.
actually.
You're in a public space. Illinois law says I can record you because you have no actual whatever it is to privacy because you're in public.
Okay, well, right.
So I have a right to record you when I can, and I am.
Weird that you record. You're straight.
Why? This stuff is bizarre that he would just erase that somebody put that they're
I
not
think
free.
A lot of people really happy that I'm erasing this. Are you happy that I'm erasing this?
Offended by the writing.
She's offended.
You're offended that someone said that they're not free?
Oh, whatever. Nothing to worry about. You have clairvoyance that you can tell as an individual, you don't know what's going on in her life, that she has nothing to worry about.
You
She has a
just-
relative that's sick. Move.
You just told me that Native Americans kill
Shut up.
people.
I was being sarcastic.
Dude,
Get a sense of humor.
erasing speech is not the same as just putting up your own, put your own message up.
Yeah, put your own message up.
Rather than erasing somebody else's free speech, write your own message.
Hey, you
he's got
said
a
your free
point.
speech, I said
He's got a
mine.
point.
I don't care what you think.
Obviously, you don't care what anybody else thinks.
No, I do.
Because you tell
No,
people
you
to
don't.
shut up, now you care about what other people think? You don't make any
There's a lot of
sense,
people-
dude. You make
Wait,
no
are you happy that
sense.
this is getting erased?
You make no sense.
Shame me. That's the Marxist.
I don't give a
That's
shit.
the
You're not gonna
Marxist
feel
logic
shame.
of Black Lives Matter.
You're an idiot.
Shame me.
You're an
Thank you.
idiot.
You're an idiot. Thank you.
It literally just said people aren't free.
Yeah.
That's really not a big deal. That's actually a true statement.
I live right here. I don't want graffiti by my front door. This is a
Do you own one of
public
these shops?
space.
Do you own one of these shops?
I mean, this isn't really
You
the
don't turn
problem.
that camera off
Other
and call
things,
the police.
call them. Go ahead and call them.
Just walk away, right? All of you, just walk away. And
Because he just actually made racial comments to me that are not okay. They're not. You just said Native Americans kill people and we're savages and whatever.
You're the weirdo.
I didn't say weirdo. I just said, why are you giving him a hard time?
Because this
all gone.
is serious.
You made your point once.